You are listening to Smart Energy Podcast, a podcast dedicated to all things from clean energy and e-mobility industry. Each episode, we invite key industry leaders, government and policy decision makers, tech innovators, entrepreneurs, and more to explore what's new, what's trending, what's coming up in the industry. The podcast puts the listener to be in the know, trigger important conversations, and provide information for usable action steps. I, Santosh Khadtare, editor of Smart Energy Magazine, and your host, welcome you all to the brand new episode of the Smart Energy Podcast. Today, we have on our podcast Mr. John Grimes, Chief Executive of Smart Energy Council, an independent body for the Australian smart energy industry. Mr. John is a bold advocate for the smart energy industry and sits on a number of expert reference committees and boards, providing advice to several Australian state governments and the energy sector. John has a passion for the solar, storage, and the smart energy industry. He is regularly called upon by the media to provide relevant and independent comments in these areas. Recently, a 34-member delegation representing over 29 Australian smart energy companies visited India between 9 to 18 March 2023. The delegation was led by the Smart Energy Council and supported by a number of Australian agencies, including the Australian Trade and Investment Commission. We will be speaking with Mr. John about the role of Smart Energy Council in Australia, the delegation visit and objectives, and the area of opportunities for Indian companies to collaborate with the Australian smart energy industry. Mr. John Grimes, welcome to the Smart Energy Podcast.
Oh, it's my tremendous pleasure to be here.
Mr. John, to begin with, can you tell our listeners more about the Smart Energy Council and its role in accelerating the transition to a sustainable future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Smart Energy Council is a peak industry body. We're a not-for-profit organisation, and our role is to promote a rapid transition to a low carbon or zero carbon energy future. We trace our history back to 1954. It actually makes us one of the oldest renewable energy organisations in the world. We have over 1,000 company members who are part of our organisation, and we have staff in every state and territory across Australia.
Thank you, Mr. John, for the brief introduction to the Smart Energy Council. Can you tell us more about the Smart Energy Council's delegation visit to India? What are its objectives and what are you looking forward from this visit?
I actually travelled to India in August last year, and I had only one question in my mind. Is it feasible to think about Australia and India as being strategic partners in the area of smart energy? Is it feasible for Australian companies to buy solar modules manufactured in India? Is it feasible for us to collaborate on renewable hydrogen projects? Is it feasible to think about other collaboration on software, electric vehicles and more? And what I found during that trip was a resounding yes to all of those questions. Actually, what I found was the Indian industry had moved much further ahead than I had expected. And I'm seeing the direction coming from the very top of the government here in India, from your Prime Minister, from your government, from your Energy Minister, actually a very strong determination to build a local industry here in India, which is a manufacturing powerhouse and home to 1.4 billion people. And that could underpin the growth here, but also help many countries around the world, countries like Australia, that don't have the same manufacturing base, but have all of the intellectual capability. A lot of the research and development for solar panels and more actually come from Australia. And so we have a long history in R&D, in early stage commercialisation, And I think we share similar values. You know, both the countries are members of the Quad, and we are working collaboratively to build our capabilities. So, I think it's a very exciting time to be in India. I think it's absolutely the right time to be in India. And so on that basis, I went back to Australia, and it was clear to me that we needed to really raise the profile of the opportunity amongst our industry peers. And so we've formed a delegation. There are actually 34 member companies that are represented on the delegation, a very broad range of companies that have been here talking to everybody from the energy advisor at Niti Aayog all the way through to, big project developers, solar panel manufacturers, but a whole range of others. And of course, the program is still underway. We have several more days to complete our delegation. We've travelled to Ahmedabad, to Delhi, to Mumbai, and then shortly we'll head to Bengaluru to conclude our visit in India.
You mentioned that the delegation comprises of 34 member companies. Could you highlight some of the member companies that are part of this delegation and the innovative products and solutions that they offer?
Well, it's a very wide range of companies. So at one end, we have companies like CWP Global. They're building some of the largest solar and wind projects in the world, including a 100 gigawatt project to be built in Australia. And they'll use that energy to produce green steel, but also renewable hydrogen and renewable ammonia. And so there are great opportunities there. And they're looking for partners, for suppliers, and for investors in their project. Other companies like 5B. 5B is a Sydney-based company that has perfected a way to very, very rapidly roll out solar farms. They can do this in record time and without the need for very much labour at all. So if you're in a very remote place or the labour force is not highly skilled, then an opportunity to roll out solar. They also cover the entire ground in solar panels, so they make the best use of the space on the ground. Another company is SunDrive. SunDrive have perfected a process to remove silver from silicon modules, silicon cells, and they use copper instead. And as a result, the cost that they're producing is about 30% below the rest of the market, but the efficiency is the highest, 26.5%. So they're looking for partners to invest in their manufacturing in Australia, but also partners to buy their cells and actually put them into solar modules here in India. There are companies like Ardexa that do remote monitoring and management of assets, particularly big solar, wind farms, renewable hydrogen plants, and they do that remotely, but with very, very strong cyber security in place. Because we know actually protecting those assets is very important from a cyber security perspective. Then there's companies like the Good Car Company. They actually are promoting the uptake of electric vehicles in Australia and are very interested in fleet management software of electric vehicles and other innovations here in India. All the way through to a company called EasyWarm. They have a very small, a very simple, very cheap inverter, which you can connect to a couple of solar panels and use the energy to drive a resistant element in a hot water tank. That way you can have hot water off-grid at very small scale wherever you like without being dependent on the electricity of the grid. Or you can use the same technology to boil water and produce potable water from dangerous or unpotable water sources. So a lot of solutions going from the very biggest solutions to the very smallest. Several renewable hydrogen companies, including Tracking and Tracing, Power Ledger, who are working with Tata Power to do blockchain, peer-to-peer trading of energy. So, look, it's really exciting. There's so much there. It would probably take us another couple of podcasts just to get through all of the opportunities.
It is exciting to know from you about the broad profile of the companies that are part of the delegation. Earlier you mentioned about synergy between companies from India and Australia to collaborate and work together. What are the areas of opportunities that the companies from India and Australia can look forward to collaborate and work together?
I think there's a big opportunity for licensing arrangements, so taking Australian innovation and having people license it and take it to market in India. There's also investment opportunities. There's also the opportunity for Australian companies to manufacture here in India, because you have a very welcoming process, a strong government support. I see that several of your state governments are very entrepreneurial in attracting that type of innovation and manufacturing into their state in India. And so I think that there is great collaboration. My view is that this is the beginning of a longer process. It's not the end. This is just the first time that we've brought a delegation like this, but the opportunities are truly profound. And people might be interested to know that we are holding our largest smart energy conference and exhibition in Sydney on the 3rd and 4th of May. And so if people want to know more about the Australian innovation landscape, to see the companies, then they are warmly welcome to attend. The event is entirely free of charge to attend. So I'd certainly encourage people to come along. And as I say, I think this is the beginning, not the end.
MOUs are the part of the delegation visit. Can you tell us more about the MOU that is signed between Australia-India Trade Association and Smart Energy Council during the visit?
What we've found is that we need local partners to help us connect to the right people in government, but more importantly to the right people in industry. And so actually having this group collaborate with us to help make those introductions is very valuable for us. And so we were very pleased to sign an MOU in support of them. Another MOU that you might be interested in is we signed an MOU with DPEU, which is the Gujarat Energy University based in Ahmedabad in Gujarat, to collectively work on a zero carbon certification scheme for renewable hydrogen projects in India. In Australia, we've developed this scheme over many years, where we go and we do a detailed engineering analysis of the manufacturing plant, look at where the energy is coming from, renewable energy, look at where the water is coming from, and figure out what is the embedded carbon in the hydrogen being produced in that facility. So we've certified renewable hydrogen plants. We've also certified renewable ammonia plants. And so the opportunity for us to collaborate here in India and jointly certify plants in India and overseas is going to, I think, be a very exciting development and something that we're very much looking forward to working with our partners on.
The Smart Energy Council has also signed a MOU with National Solar Energy Federation of India. How do you see this partnership help promote India-Australia solar energy, climate awareness, and clean technologies?
Actually, this has been a long-standing partnership and relationship for the Smart Energy Council. We've been working with the peak solar body in India for many years. In fact, together, we helped form, at COP15 in Paris, we helped form an arrangement that actually led to the development of the International Solar Alliance, the multinational UN body headquartered and developed under Indian leadership here in India. And so we have a very long-standing relationship with that organisation. We're very, very keen to strengthen that, because I think that trade body to trade body connections will be very strong. And as other companies from the Australian side or the Indian side come forward, then this is a very useful point of contact for putting all of those companies, investors, researchers and more together in a comprehensive framework.
Finally, what role do you see smart energy technologies play in achieving energy independence by 2047 and net zero target by 2070 set by India, and the role of renewable energy in achieving the target?
People have thought about renewable energy, about smart energy as being something which is a small component of the energy network. And in the beginning, that's true. But very quickly, smart energy will become the energy network. And that's really for one primary reason, two reasons, but one primary reason, and that is cost. It is cheaper to generate electricity with solar and with wind, to use batteries to store energy or pumped hydro technology, than it is to produce the same energy with coal, oil or gas. And so it is cost that is driving this rapid transition. And the sooner every country transitions to renewable energy, the cheaper electricity will be for their economies. And in an economy like India, which is developing so rapidly and at such a massive scale, you need cheap energy to actually power this country ahead. The second reason is really for environmental reasons. We know that if we don't take urgent, meaningful action on climate, then actually we are all at peril. I was told as I visited India that actually every year the temperature seems to be rising, getting higher and higher. And so you quickly have a situation where the living conditions are unsuitable for human life. And so because of that, the economics and the environment, they're the two factors that are going to drive this on. And the smart companies, that's why in India, Reliance, Renew, Avada, Azure, a whole bunch of companies are just moving so quickly to embrace the opportunities of renewable energy, of renewable hydrogen, to invest in the technology, because it's going to deliver massive dividends to their shareholders, massive dividends to the economy and to the community, and help power India's development going forward. So by 2047, smart energy will be the energy sector, not just a small part of it.
As India scales up solar and battery production, builds massive projects, and rolls out cutting-edge energy technology, the opportunity for collaboration are immense. This collaboration is a win-win for both India and Australia. A big thank you, Mr. John, and appreciate your time for joining us on the podcast. It was fantastic speaking with you on trade and investment opportunities and future area of business-to-business collaboration between companies from India and Australia.
A big shout out to everybody. I think Australia and India are natural partners and friends. Operating in India is really so easy. We share a common language, a common rule of law, an open and transparent media, an open and transparent financial and banking system. And so I think all of those things mean that there is really a great foundation for much greater collaboration, a much closer partnership and friendship going forward. And I think, I really encourage everybody to engage in the process. I think together, Australia and India can do truly amazing things.
Definitely, this partnership is going to be amazing, not just for both the countries, but for the world. We look forward to more such visits from Smart Energy Council and other industry bodies from Australia to India, and exchange of information, technology, and collaboration. As you have mentioned, it is just a beginning and there are more things to come. On this positive note, we come to the end of this insightful episode of the Smart Energy Podcast. We invite all our listeners to get involved and join in the conversation. If you have any questions or want more information on any specific topic discussed today, you can drop a mail to me at santosh.smartenergy@gmail.com. Ask questions and keep the conversation going. And yes, if you like the podcast, don't forget to click on the subscribe button and recommend it to your industry colleagues. Thank you for tuning.